Whoa, Dad. I don't know what that's about. I thought I heard you say stay with Dad. Oh, that's just signs of what's to come, yeah? When the beautiful woman taps him on the shoulder, yeah, Dad? Yeah, that's how it's going to be. Anyway, I'm glad you're here today. If you're crowded, there's plenty of room on this side. You can move on over. I feel like the boat's a little unbalanced, so if you'd like to, that'd be good. Also, we have lots of folks that visiting with us here, but also good to see Beth and Leo. They brought a new visitor with them today. Scarlett is how many weeks? 1 month tomorrow. Yeah, happy 1 month to Scarlett. And last night we celebrated 100 days for Zachary, right? Yes. And Katrina, how's she doing? And baby? Okay. Mom and baby at home, that's another baby. And looking for some more babies. Anybody got some babies in here? Done with that, huh? So what we're going to do is this. We've had several babies. We're on the first Sunday of October. We'll have a baby dedication Sunday. We do baby dedication a little bit different here. It's not necessarily trying to dedicate the baby so much as it is to dedicate the parents to taking care and raising the baby in a godly fashion. So that's going to be the first Sunday of October. And if any babies born in the last 6 months or so, then we'll have a baby dedication for them. And there's probably been a boatload of them. Yeah, Daniel. I didn't see Andrea. Yeah, she's on her way back, right? Yeah, another baby back there. So, yeah. And we have babies coming. I know that too. So, amen. That's, I think that's biblical and godly. You'll notice also that in the bulletin, there's a little bit different bulletin. There's a lot more space for taking notes. I've had several people complain that there's not enough room, and the only reason there's not enough room is because I didn't realize this, folks. I preached a whole hour last Sunday, and I don't know if I should apologize or not, but I had 3 points for today's sermon and cut it down to 2, just so we could try and keep it within the time frame there. But how many of you actually read the book of Leviticus last week? You read the book of Leviticus last week. Okay, very good, very good. And how many of you read the book of Leviticus with your children? Okay, good. That will probably get some questions being asked. Yes. And that's a good thing, because really they should be asking those questions of mom and dad. So Leviticus is a good book to read with your children, even those somewhat, you might think them questionable or difficult, but those are questions that they need to be talking about with mom and dad. So I encourage you again, this last week as we were reading through the book of Leviticus, I spoke about some of the big points that we covered having to do with sacrifice and worship, and the fact that those two words go together, no sacrifice, no worship. And we also talked about holiness and purity, and then the presence of God being absolutely dependent upon obedience to God. If I were to put the location of Leviticus into a paragraph, it might go something like this. In the book of Exodus, we see Israel brought out of Egypt to meet with God. At Mount Sinai, God came down to meet with them and to dwell with them in the tabernacle. To me, that's just it's an amazing thought. And not just a thought, but an amazing truth that God came to dwell with them in the tabernacle. Now, with God dwelling among his people, it became necessary that the people be instructed as to how they might draw near and worship him. And instruction that we need down through to today. It is for this purpose that we have the book of Leviticus, because Leviticus was it's a priestly book written to the children of Israel, telling them how to meet with God, how to live in the presence of the Most High God. A people redeemed from Egypt worship a holy God. And it answers this question that was asked by Job in chapter 9, verse 2. The question is, how can a man be righteous before God? How can a man be righteous? How can a person find their righteousness in the presence of God? And that is a question that all of humanity is asking. It's a question that many religions are trying to answer. And I suggest to you the only one who can answer that question is God himself. That's why we're looking at this book of Revelation. Now, today, I'd like to continue with a couple more underlying themes that weave their way through this narrative of Leviticus. And I'm going to just touch on these things. I'm going to remind you that this is Introduction Part 2, okay? You're going to be saying, when in the world are we going to get to the book? We're kind of overlooking it now, overviewing it. And so I'm going to look at a lot of different scriptures today. Now, if you have your electronic Bible, how many have their electronic Bible with them? Okay. If you need to get onto the internet, you can get on the internet at gracechurch-p. And there is the password there. Once you get onto the internet, then you can also go to any one of those sites where you can have the online Bible. And if you just have the good old-fashioned written word, that works well too. Fingers don't need passwords. You can just open it up. And I found that one of the things about having an electronic Bible is you don't really need to know the books of the Bible. You just kind of punch it in, you know. And so there's give and take either way. I use the electronic Bible almost exclusively now because you can take it anywhere, and I don't. It's not that I mind taking this, but I get a whole library in here and several versions and the whole thing. So you can go to any one of those Bible sites and plug into the scriptures, and it'll help you to be able to punch around to the different scriptures that we're going to be going through today. The subject that I want to speak about is has to do with rhythm. And that whole idea of rhythm, of course, as we were singing this morning, sometimes we attempt to clap. I am one who has not been gifted to rhythm at all. So I just never can get my hands together at the right time when we try to clap. So I don't even try. I just clap. I'm just clapping. And if it hits, fine. If it doesn't, fine. But I just don't have much in the way of rhythm. However, I notice that when the band practices and when they play, getting the right rhythm or the beat is a very important thing. It's interesting about rhythm. It's a strong and regular repeated beat. However, that can also be very close to what we would call monotony. There's a difference between rhythm and monotony. Monotony is getting into a rut. Monotony is when you get the same thing over and over again, and it's monotone. There's no beauty or anything to it. But when you take rhythm, and with rhythm you add things like harmony, and to harmony you add a message or the word. You put all those things together around a rhythm, it gets a message across very well, and it's very beautiful to the ears and easily accepted. So I would like to see that our life should have a sense of rhythm to it, and the reason that I'm speaking about this today is because through the book of Leviticus and through the scriptures, there is a sense of rhythm. And as Rob mentioned this morning, we're a busy people, aren't we? And some of the problem with being so busy is it gets us out of a sense of rhythm. I used to enjoy traveling. I don't like traveling anymore. The reason is I much more enjoy having a rhythm to life. And by that, when I get up in the morning, there's a certain ritual I go through. Yeah? Am I the only one who does a ritual in the morning? And during different times of the day, we have a bit of a ritual that we go through. And many of us, we have a ritual that whenever we sit down to food, we bow our heads and pray. And so that adds a bit of rhythm, because we know that at a certain time of the day we're going to pause for a moment and just say thanks for the food. And I say that because there is a fine line between rhythm and monotony. But when we come to the Scriptures, we see how God established from the very beginning a certain sense of a rhythm to life. If you go to Genesis chapter 1, the very beginning of the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and the Bible tells us this: in the beginning, and please take note, whatever you believe about how it all came to pass, this is back in the beginning, okay, before it's coming to pass here. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void. Darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. It's as if there's a brooding spirit there. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And then God separated the light from the darkness. So God called the light day, and darkness He called night. And there was evening and there was morning the first day. Just some things I want us to notice here. When God came on this scene, whatever happened, there are those who think that God created the universe and then it's called a gap theology, that when He cast Satan out of heaven, Satan came down to earth and destroyed it and made a mess out of it, and God came back then and saw this chaos, and then He begins to build this order again. Bottom line is, all that sounds good, and it might be absolutely true. I just don't know, and so I have to deal with the fact that I don't know for certain about some of these things. However, I do know this, that whatever God saw, He said that it was no form, no void. We would say chaos. God saw the chaos, and what does He do to bring order to it? He creates light. Do you know what light is? Light is actually a pattern of waves. Waves, which is exactly rhythm. It's interesting to me that the first thing that God brings to this chaos is a sense of rhythm, and then He doesn't take away night completely. In fact, He uses the juxtaposition of light and darkness to continue to give us rhythm today. I know that some people don't pay any attention to when the sun goes down. For me, I pay very close attention to when the sun goes down, because I know that that means lights out. God gave us lights out for a reason. Now we have electricity. We should still learn that there's a time, turn the lights off, go to sleep. One of the most important things to health and to sanity and to, I might say, I would also include a spiritual well-being is having enough sleep. Again, talking to busy people, right? You look at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. Sleep is, and I have some good Christian friends who will make you guilty for sleeping. They make you feel guilty for taking time to sleep. And I said, you know what? I don't feel guilty at all. I think God gave us this rest, and it's good to have. Now, that doesn't mean we should be slothful and lazy, but in the creation, God brought this light. He brought chaos to order by putting a rhythm on those light waves. And those light waves then were divided to give us night and day. So already we have this rhythm beginning. And we should pay attention to it. Later on in the book of Genesis, we're told a story about a man named Noah. And Noah lived at a very wicked time. In fact, it was, when God looked on it, as far as morals were concerned, it was very chaotic. And God's answer to that was, I'm getting rid of it. He wanted to just simply wipe the world away and start all over again. And in our vernacular, He was going to do a reboot. But He couldn't, because He saw a family, a man, whom found grace in His eyes because he was a righteous man. This was a man who had a spiritual rhythm of offering sacrifice.